Walk into any American grocery store and you'll find an entire wall of peanut butter jars, every one of them trying to convince you it's the healthy choice. Green labels, words like natural, pictures of peanuts still in their shells, like somebody just picked them from a sun-drenched field 5 minutes ago, and most of us grab one, toss it in the cart, and never think twice. But here's what I've learned after years of actually reading labels, talking to nutritionists, and watching food marketing evolve. Some of the most popular peanut butter brands in America are dressed up to look wholesome while hiding ingredients that work against you. Added sugars, inflammatory oils, excessive sodium, and fillers that have no business being in a jar that's supposed to contain ground peanuts. That's it. Ground peanuts. And the tricky part? It's not always the cheap brands doing this. Some of the worst offenders are the ones charging you a premium, sitting in the organic aisle, wrapped in craft paper-style labels designed to make you feel like you're buying something from a farmer's market. One brand on this list, and we'll get to it, literally puts the word natural on its label while containing more sugar per serving than a chocolate chip cookie. Another one markets itself as a fitness food while packing in palm oil and molasses. So today, we're going through 12 peanut butter brands that are not as healthy as they look, not to shame anyone's breakfast, but because you deserve to know what you're actually spreading on your toast and what a genuinely better option looks like. Some of these are going to surprise you. A couple might be sitting in your pantry right now. Let's get into it. Number 1. Skippy Natural Peanut Butter Spread. This is one of the most brilliantly marketed peanut butters in America, and I mean that as a warning, not a compliment. Skippy Natural comes in that familiar jar, but with a green lid and the word natural right there on the front. And for a lot of families, that's enough. You see natural, you think it's a step up from regular Skippy, you put it in the cart, and you move on with your day. It feels like a small, responsible upgrade, but flip that jar around and read what's actually in it. You'll find roasted peanuts, good start, followed by sugar, palm oil, and salt. That's the same basic ingredient structure as regular Skippy. The sugar content is roughly 3 grams per 2 tablespoon serving, which doesn't sound like a lot, until you realize that actual natural peanut butter, the kind that's just peanuts and maybe a pinch of salt, has 0 added sugar. None. And then there's the palm oil. It's in there to keep the peanut butter from separating, which is the thing that happens with truly natural peanut butter when the oil rises to the top. Skippy solved that problem by adding a processed fat so the texture stays smooth and spreadable without stirring. Convenient? Sure. But palm oil is a saturated fat, and it's replacing the natural peanut oil that would otherwise be doing the job just fine. Here's the real issue. The word natural on a food label in the United States has almost no regulated meaning. The FDA has not established a formal definition. So a brand can slap natural on a product that contains added sugar and refined oil, and it's perfectly legal. Skippy isn't breaking any rules. They're just using the looseness of the system to make a product look cleaner than it is. A better move? If you like that Skippy-style creaminess but want something genuinely simpler, look for brands where the ingredient list is literally just peanuts or peanuts and salt. You'll have to stir it once when you open the jar, store it upside down in the pantry between uses, and the stirring issue mostly solves itself. That 10 seconds of effort is the entire difference between real natural peanut butter and a marketing exercise. And speaking of marketing exercises, the next one takes a slightly different approach, but the result is the same. Number 2. Jif Natural Peanut Butter Spread. Jif is the best-selling peanut butter brand in the country. It's been in American kitchens for decades, and when they launched their natural line, it carried all that built-in trust right onto the shelf. The label looks cleaner than regular Jif. The messaging implies a simpler product, and a lot of people assume that Jif Natural is basically just peanuts, because why else would they call it natural? But the ingredient list tells a different story. Peanuts, sugar, palm oil, and 2% or less of salt and molasses. Yes, molasses. So not only does Jif Natural contain added sugar, it contains 2 types of added sweetener. The total sugar content comes in around 3 grams per serving, similar to Skippy Natural, and again, in a product that doesn't need any added sugar at all. The palm oil issue is identical here. It's a texture stabilizer, not a health ingredient. And the molasses adds a slight caramel sweetness that makes the peanut butter taste more like a treat and less like, well, peanuts. Which is the point. These products are engineered to taste indulgent while wearing a health-conscious label. What bothers me most about this one is the trust factor. Jif has enormous brand loyalty. Families buy it because their parents bought it. And when those families see natural on the label, they genuinely believe they're making a healthier choice for their kids. The gap between what the label implies and what the ingredient list says, that's where the problem lives. If you're a Jif household and you want to make a real switch, try a store brand natural peanut butter where the ingredients are just dry roasted peanuts and salt. Many grocery chains, Kroger, Costco's Kirkland, Trader Joe's, Aldi, offer these at a lower price than Jif Natural. You're paying less for a genuinely simpler product. That's a rare win. Now, the next brand on this list takes the health positioning even further and charges you more for it. Number 3. Peter Pan Natural Creamy Peanut Butter. Peter Pan kind of flies under the radar compared to Skippy and Jif, but it's still widely available across the country, and its natural line follows the exact same playbook: roasted peanuts, sugar, palm oil, salt. The ingredient list is nearly identical to the other two. The sugar is in the same range, about 3 grams per serving. The palm oil is doing the same stabilizing job, and the word natural is doing the same heavy lifting on the front of the label. But here's what makes Peter Pan worth calling out specifically. It's often priced slightly lower than Skippy Natural or Jif Natural, which makes it attractive to budget-conscious shoppers who are trying to eat a little healthier without spending more. The thinking is, I'm getting the natural version and saving a few cents. But you're not getting a natural version. You're getting the same sweetened, oil-stabilized peanut butter in a green-tinted label. I bring up all 3 of these, Skippy, Jif, and Peter Pan, together because they represent a pattern, not isolated cases. The major conventional peanut butter brands all launched natural lines around the same time, all using the same formula: keep the sugar and palm oil, drop a few minor additives, and rebrand. It was a market response to consumer demand for cleaner food, without actually making the food much cleaner. The lesson here is simple. Ignore the front of the jar. Always flip it over. If the ingredient list has more than 2 items, peanuts and salt, ask yourself whether those extra ingredients are there for your health or for the manufacturer's convenience. And that brings us to a brand that a lot of health-conscious shoppers trust implicitly, which is exactly why it needs to be on this list. Number 4. Smart Balance. Rich roast peanut butter. Smart Balance built its entire brand identity around heart health. The name itself sounds like a medical recommendation, and their peanut butter leans hard into that positioning. The label talks about omega-3 fatty acids, flax oil, and a balanced fat profile. Sounds great, right? A peanut butter that's actually engineered to be good for your heart? Here's the problem. Look at the full ingredient list: roasted peanuts, palm fruit oil, flaxseed oil, sugar, salt, molasses, and natural flavor. So once again, we have added sugar, we have molasses, 2 sweeteners, and we have palm oil. The flaxseed oil is there in a small enough quantity that the actual omega-3 contribution per serving is minimal. You'd get more omega-3 from a single walnut. What Smart Balance is really selling is a narrative, the idea that their specific blend of fats is superior. But peanuts already have a naturally healthy fat profile, mostly monounsaturated fat, the same kind that makes olive oil a health food. By adding palm oil to the mix, they're actually diluting that natural profile with a less desirable saturated fat, then trying to offset it with a token amount of flaxseed oil. It's like putting premium gas in a car and then adding a cup of cooking oil to the tank, then sticking a performance-enhanced sticker on the bumper. The price on Smart Balance peanut butter is typically higher than conventional brands, sometimes significantly so. You're paying a premium for added ingredients that either don't help or actively work against the health claim on the label. If heart-healthy fats are your goal, plain peanut butter, just peanuts, already delivers. Or switch to almond butter, which has a slightly different fat profile and no need for stabilizers. But don't pay extra for a brand that's adding sugar and palm oil while telling you it's doing you a favor. The next brand on this list takes a completely different approach to looking healthy, and it's one that catches a lot of people off guard. Number 5. Smucker's Natural Peanut Butter. Now, I want to be careful here because Smucker's actually makes a couple of different peanut butter products, and they're not all the same. Their plain natural peanut butter, the one with the simple label that says just peanuts and salt, is actually a solid choice. That one is fine. But Smucker's also makes a natural peanut butter with honey and a natural creamy peanut butter that includes palm oil in some formulations. And this is where it gets confusing for shoppers, because the Smucker's name carries a wholesome, old-fashioned, almost farmhouse reputation. The jars look like something your grandmother would have in her pantry. And when you see natural on a Smucker's product, you tend to believe it without checking. The honey variety, for example, adds honey as a sweetener. And while honey is technically a natural sweetener, it's still sugar. A 2-tablespoon serving of the honey version has around 5 to 6 grams of sugar, compared to 1 gram in their plain version. That's a significant jump, and most of it is added sugar, not the naturally occurring sugar in peanuts. The danger here is the halo effect. Smucker's earned trust with their genuinely simple peanut butter, and then extended that trust to products that aren't as clean. Shoppers grab the honey version thinking it's basically the same thing with a little flavor twist, not realizing they've just tripled or quadrupled the sugar content. Always check which specific Smucker's product you're buying. The one with just peanuts and a touch of salt? Great. The one with honey or added oils? That's a different product wearing a familiar face. This kind of brand trust confusion shows up again with our next entry, except this one comes from a brand that's practically synonymous with healthy eating. Number 6. Jif Squeeze Peanut Butter. I know, Jif again. But the squeeze pouch deserves its own spot on this list because it targets a completely different buyer. Parents packing school lunches, people who want convenience on the go, hikers, snack packers. The squeeze pouch format feels modern and practical. No knife, no mess, no jar to wash. Just squeeze and go. And because it's Jif, parents assume it's the same product they already know, just in a different container. But Jif Squeeze has a slightly different formulation than even regular Jif. To make peanut butter squeezable, to get it to flow through a narrow spout without separating or clogging, the product needs to be more processed. The ingredient list includes peanuts, sugar, palm oil, and less than 2% of salt, hydrogenated vegetable oils, and mono and diglycerides. Hydrogenated vegetable oils. That's a trans fat precursor. Fully hydrogenated oils aren't technically trans fats the way partially hydrogenated oils are, but they're still heavily processed fats that most nutritionists would prefer you avoid, especially in a product marketed toward children. And the sugar content is comparable to regular Jif, around 3 grams per serving, which again is unnecessary in peanut butter. The convenience factor is real. I get it. Nobody wants to wrestle with a jar and a knife at a trailhead, but there are alternatives. You can buy single-serve packets from brands like Justin's or RX Nut Butter that use cleaner ingredients. Or, and this is the lowest cost option, just pre-spread your peanut butter at home before you leave. A small reusable container with a simpler peanut butter costs almost nothing and takes 30 seconds. Don't let packaging innovation distract you from ingredient regression. That's a pattern that shows up a lot in food marketing, and it's especially common with our next brand. Number 7. Reese's Peanut Butter Spread. This one might seem obvious. It's a candy brand making peanut butter, but it ends up on this list because of where it's shelved and how it's bought. Reese's Peanut Butter Spread is often placed right next to Skippy and Jif on the grocery shelf, not in the candy aisle, not in the dessert section, right there in the peanut butter section, in a jar that's roughly the same size and shape as a regular peanut butter jar. And plenty of shoppers, especially younger adults and families with kids, grab it thinking it's just a tastier version of peanut butter. A little more indulgent, sure, but still fundamentally peanut butter. It is not fundamentally peanut butter. The first ingredient is sugar. Not peanuts. Sugar. Followed by peanuts, then peanut oil, then hydrogenated vegetable oil, cocoa butter, non-fat milk, and other additives. This is a confection that contains peanuts, not a peanut butter that contains a little sweetness. The distinction matters because the sugar content is roughly 9 grams per 2 tablespoon serving, 3 times what you'd find in Skippy or Jif, and 9 times what you'd find in plain peanut butter. The reason this is dangerous isn't because anyone thinks Reese's is a health food. It's because of the shelf placement and the jar format. When something looks like peanut butter, sits next to peanut butter, and gets used like peanut butter, on toast, in smoothies, with apples, people unconsciously treat it like peanut butter. They don't mentally categorize it as dessert. And so, it gets consumed in peanut butter quantities, at peanut butter frequency, with none of the nutritional profile that makes actual peanut butter worth eating. If you want a chocolate peanut treat, have a Reese's cup and call it what it is. Don't let a jar shape turn candy into a daily staple. If you're getting value from this kind of breakdown, the stuff that labels don't tell you up front, consider subscribing. This channel is built around helping you make better decisions, whether that's in your yard, your home, or your kitchen. One click, and you won't miss the next one. Now, let's talk about a brand that goes in the complete opposite direction from Reese's, so far in the healthy direction that it actually circles back around to being misleading. Number 8. Kraft All Natural. Peanut butter. Kraft is a giant in the American food landscape, and their all-natural peanut butter is widely available, especially if you shop at mainstream grocery chains. The label is clean. The jar is simple. The word natural is prominent. And in this case, the ingredient list is actually shorter than some of the brands we've already discussed. Depending on the specific variety, Kraft Natural contains roasted peanuts, palm oil, and salt. Some versions also include sugar, so it's not the worst offender on this list by any means. But the palm oil issue persists, and here's why it keeps mattering. Palm oil in peanut butter serves one purpose: preventing separation. That's it. It doesn't improve nutrition. It doesn't improve flavor. It exists so the product looks smooth and consistent when you open the jar, because American consumers have been trained to think that oil separation means something is wrong. It doesn't. Oil separation in peanut butter is completely natural. It's literally just peanut oil rising to the top. You stir it once, and you're done. But brands like Kraft know that separation is a purchase barrier. People open a jar, see liquid on top, and think the product has gone bad. So palm oil gets added, the texture stays uniform, and the consumer feels reassured, while consuming a saturated fat they didn't need. The broader issue with Kraft Natural is that it represents the minimum viable natural product. It's natural enough to use the word on the label. It's not natural enough to actually be just peanuts. And for a lot of shoppers, that minimum is good enough because they trust the brand and don't dig deeper. If you're already reaching for Kraft, you're one small step away from a genuinely clean peanut butter. Many stores carry their own house brand with just peanuts and salt, often at the same price or less. That one step, same shelf, same price, better product, is one of the easiest upgrades in the entire grocery store. The next brand, though, makes the upgrade conversation a lot more complicated because it wraps itself in a story that's very hard to argue with. Number 9. Justin's Classic Peanut Butter. Justin's is the brand that people switch to when they decide to eat better. The packaging is clean, modern, almost minimalist. It's sold at Whole Foods, Target, and natural grocery stores. The brand story is appealing. A guy making nut butter in his kitchen, scaling up while keeping things simple. And the squeeze packs are everywhere in school lunchboxes and gym bags. So what's the problem? Justin's Classic Peanut Butter contains dry roasted peanuts and palm oil. That's it. No added sugar, no salt in the classic version, and honestly, That's a much shorter ingredient list than most brands on this list. The issue here is specifically the palm oil and the price. Justin's charges a significant premium. A 16-ounce jar typically runs between $6 and $8, depending on the retailer. A comparable jar of store-brand peanut butter with just peanuts and salt often costs $3 to $4. You're paying roughly double for a product that adds palm oil, an ingredient that most nutrition-conscious consumers are specifically trying to avoid. Now, Justin's would argue their palm oil is sustainably sourced, and they do carry certifications for that. If environmental sourcing is your primary concern, that's a valid consideration. But from a pure nutrition standpoint, you're paying more for a product that is not nutritionally superior to a $3 jar of store-brand peanut butter that contains only peanuts. The brand positioning, the clean label, the founder story, the premium shelf placement creates a perception of health that slightly outpaces the reality. Justin's isn't bad. It's just not worth the premium if your goal is the healthiest peanut butter for your dollar. And that gap between perception and value gets even wider with our next entry. Number 10. Peanut Butter & Co. Smooth operator. Peanut Butter & Co. started as a sandwich shop in New York City, and their jars have a fun, artisanal, indie brand feel. The Smooth Operator variety is their flagship, a smooth peanut butter that markets itself as a cleaner, more interesting alternative to the big brands. The ingredients: peanuts, cane sugar, palm fruit oil, and salt. Cane sugar sounds better than just sugar, doesn't it? It feels less processed, more artisanal, more intentional. But nutritionally, cane sugar is sugar. Your body processes it the same way. The distinction is a marketing choice, not a health one. And once again, palm oil. At this point in the list, you're probably noticing a pattern. Palm oil is the landscaping equivalent of cheap plastic edging. It's everywhere. It's in products at every price point, and it exists because it solves a manufacturing problem, not a consumer problem. Peanut Butter & Company also makes flavored varieties: dark chocolate dreams, the bee's knees with honey, cinnamon raisin swirl, and these are where the sugar content really climbs. Some flavored varieties hit 7 to 8 grams of sugar per serving. They're positioned as gourmet peanut butter, but they're closer to dessert spreads. The core issue is the artisanal branding. When a product looks handcrafted and independent, we lower our guard. We assume small batch means healthier. But the ingredient list doesn't care about the brand's origin story. Sugar is sugar, whether it comes from a charming sandwich shop in Greenwich Village or a factory in Arkansas. If you want flavored peanut butter, a genuinely healthier approach is to buy plain peanut butter, just peanuts and salt, and add your own cinnamon, cocoa powder, or drizzle of honey. You control the amount, you skip the palm oil, and you probably save $2 a jar. We're getting close to the end of this list, and the last two entries are brands that genuinely surprise people, because they're the ones that health-conscious shoppers specifically seek out. Let's keep going. Number 11. RX Nut. Butter Peanut Butter. RX is the brand behind RX bars, those protein bars with the transparent ingredient list printed right on the front of the package. 3 egg whites, 6 almonds, 4 cashews, 2 dates, no BS. It's a brilliant marketing strategy, radical transparency that makes you trust everything the brand makes. And then they released RX Nut Butter, including a peanut butter variety. And because of the trust built by the bars, a lot of people assumed the nut butter was equally clean. The peanut butter squeeze packs contain peanuts, egg whites, and honey, no palm oil, no added processed sugar. On the surface, that looks great. But let's look closer. The honey adds roughly 4 to 5 grams of sugar per serving. And the egg whites are there to boost the protein content, which is fine, but it also changes the texture and flavor in a way that some people compensate for by eating more of it. The packets are small, about 1.13 ounces, and they're priced at roughly $2 each. That works out to over $28 per pound of peanut butter. $28 a pound. A jar of plain, 2-ingredient peanut butter costs roughly $3 to $4 per pound. You could buy 7 pounds of genuinely simple peanut butter for the price of 1 pound of RX. Is RX nut butter terrible for you? No. But is it meaningfully healthier than a 2-ingredient peanut butter that costs a fraction of the price? Also, no. The egg white protein bump is modest, a couple extra grams per serving, and you could get the same benefit by eating a hard-boiled egg alongside your regular peanut butter toast. RX built trust with transparency on their bars, then leveraged that trust into a nut butter product that is fine but dramatically overpriced relative to its actual nutritional advantage. The no BS branding makes you feel like you're making the smartest choice in the aisle. But sometimes the smartest choice is the boring $3 jar with 2 ingredients and no marketing story at all. Which brings us to the last brand on this list, and it's the one I mentioned at the beginning. The one that genuinely catches people off guard. Number 12. Jif Natural with honey. We've already talked about Jif Natural. But the honey variety deserves its own spotlight because it represents everything we've discussed in this video, concentrated into a single jar. Jif Natural peanut butter spread with honey contains peanuts, sugar, palm oil, honey, salt, and molasses. Count the sweeteners: sugar, honey, molasses. 3 separate added sweeteners in a product with natural on the label. The sugar content hits roughly 4 to 5 grams per 2 tablespoon serving. And remember, this is a product that people specifically choose because they think the honey makes it a healthier option than regular Jif. The word honey on a food label triggers a health association in most consumers. Honey feels wholesome, natural, medicinal even. And brands know this. That's why they put it on the front of the label in large type, while the sugar and molasses hide in the small print on the back. Here's the math that matters. If you use 2 tablespoons of this peanut butter every day, a normal amount for toast or a sandwich, you're consuming roughly 30 to 35 grams of added sugar per week just from your peanut butter. Over a year, that's nearly 4 pounds of added sugar from a single condiment that you believed was a healthy choice. And the palm oil is still there, and the molasses is still there, and the word natural is still there on the front. This is the jar I think about when people ask me whether label reading actually matters. It matters because this product exists in millions of American kitchens right now, being served to kids and adults who genuinely believe they chose the healthier option. They did the thing you're supposed to do. They looked for the natural version. They picked the one with honey instead of high fructose corn syrup. They spent a little extra. And the product still contains 3 sweeteners and a processed stabilizer oil. The fix is the same as it's been throughout this entire list. Buy peanut butter where the ingredient list is peanuts or peanuts and salt. If you want honey, add a thin drizzle yourself. You'll use less than what's in the jar, and you'll actually taste it. If you want it sweet for kids, a 1/4 teaspoon of honey on top of real peanut butter is a fraction of the sugar in Jif Natural with honey. Here's the thing that ties all 12 of these together. Not one of these brands is poison. Nobody's going to the hospital because of palm oil in their Skippy. The danger isn't acute, it's cumulative, and it's built on a gap between what you think you're buying and what you're actually eating. Every one of these products is engineered to look like the responsible choice. Green labels, the word natural, honey, clean fonts, craft paper textures, farmer's market vibes. And behind every one of those design choices is an ingredient list that tells a simpler, less flattering story. This is peanut butter with added sugar and processed fat, sold at a markup because the label makes you feel good about buying it. The real healthy peanut butter isn't hard to find. It's usually on the same shelf in a less attractive jar with a shorter ingredient list and a lower price. Peanuts, maybe salt. That's it. You stir it once. You store it in the fridge if you want. And you get every gram of protein, healthy fat, and fiber that makes peanut butter worth eating in the first place, without the sweeteners, the stabilizers, or the marketing. Read the back of the jar, not the front. That's where the truth lives. If this kind of breakdown was useful, there's a video on screen right now that goes deeper into everyday grocery products that aren't what they seem. Same approach, no hype, just labels, ingredients, and better alternatives. I'll see you in that one.